Welcome to Dashing Dish. Oftentimes when life gets busy, the first thing to go is our healthy eating habits. But one thing that's really made a big difference for me is meal prepping. So today I'm going to show you how I like to meal prep and share some of my favorite meal prep recipes with you guys. Our meal prep menu includes chocolatey, fudgy, downright delicious brownie baked oats, clean eating egg salad with homemade pita chips, comfort food made healthy, meatball lasagna. And we can't forget the snacks of the week. Let's try protein-packed peanut butter bars, guaranteed to satisfy any craving. I'm Katie Farrell, and today we're meal prepping to eliminate the age-old question, what's for dinner? Come join us. Well, welcome to a little look inside my personal meal prep in my kitchen. One of the favorite things that I like to make for breakfast are these brownie baked oats. I love to make these because they're high protein, whole grain, high fiber, so they really stay with you throughout the day and they taste just like a brownie for breakfast. I'm gonna start with 2 cups of oats, a half cup of sweetener, a 1/3 cup of protein powder, a half cup of cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a half cup of applesauce, a half cup of chocolate chips, 2 cups of almond milk, and 2 eggs. So if you love oatmeal in the morning and this is like something that you're thinking, okay, I could definitely get into these. Why I love this recipe more than oatmeal, more than anything else that you can just pop in the microwave, is you literally are meal prepping an entire batch of oats all in one. So this is just made all in one bowl, and I'm gonna bake it up, and then it's literally going to feed me for the rest of the week, or my family. So it really is a great thing to meal prep. And whenever I'm meal prepping, I'm always thinking ahead, thinking, can I make a double batch of this? Can this feed my entire family for the week? You know, I'm always trying to make every single meal that I make stretch as far as it can. So sometimes we have meals where we have leftovers, but not always. So I'm always thinking, okay, what are my busiest days of the week? Can I make a crock pot meal for that day? And I like to do a lot of prep ahead when it comes to making my meals. So really, I just do things like wash my produce. Maybe I cut up some of my chicken so that I can throw it into a recipe. I'm always thinking, how can I make things a little bit easier? Because if you're anything like me, I'm a mom with 2 kids and a husband to feed, and at the end of a really busy day, the last thing that I'm thinking about is what's for dinner. So if I plan ahead and I think just a little bit about what could I do to make my week easier, really those simple steps go a very long way. So I'm just mixing all of these ingredients together, and you can see how easy this is. And in real meal prep, I probably would make a double batch of this. That's what I love to do, especially when I'm baking, is I'll just double every recipe. If I'm making muffins, cookies, it doesn't matter what I'm making. If I'm baking, I double batch it, and then I keep the other batch in the freezer. And that way I can have 1 batch for this week and 1 for next week. And it really does cut down on the amount of time that I'm in the kitchen. So I'm gonna pour this into an 8x8 pan. And you can see that it looks pretty much like brownie batter. And it really does taste just like brownies. Now, if you wanted to, you could always top this, because it is a baked oatmeal, with some strawberries or some kind of fruit, or some more chocolate chips would also be delicious. And I will note that I added protein powder to this. So that protein is really gonna give you a good balance, especially for breakfast in the morning, of nutrition. Having protein is so important to start your day. It starts your blood sugar off more leveled, and you feel more satisfied throughout the day. So I'm gonna bake this baked brownie oats at 350 degrees for 40 to 45 minutes, and then I'm gonna slice them up, and they'll be perfect to have for breakfast throughout the week. Egg salad with baked pita chips. Did I call it anything else?
Clean eating creamy eggs.
Oh my gosh. What is wrong with me? I can't. I'm just gonna call it egg salad. All right, so now we're on to meal prepping one of my favorites for lunch, which is a creamy egg salad with baked pita chips. And to make the baked pita chips, you'll want to start with 1 piece of pita bread, 1½ tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a pinch of salt and pepper. For the egg salad, you'll want 4 hard-boiled eggs, 2 tablespoons of hummus, 1 teaspoon of mustard, and a pinch of salt and pepper. All right, so to start, I'm gonna make my pita chips, and it's really easy. You just take 1 piece of pita bread, and really you could use any kind of flatbread, lavash. There's all different kinds of healthier flatbreads these days. Anything that will bake up nicely for a chip. And you'll want to cut it into about 8 sections or so, just enough to make a good chip. And we're going to put these on our baking pan. I like to line baking pans with parchment paper because then you can just throw it away. You don't have to clean the pan when you're done. Makes it super simple for meal prep. And then I'm gonna spray it with cooking spray. You could also use just a drizzle of oil if you'd like. And then this is where it turns into really crispy, delicious chips, is some Parmesan cheese. So you just wanna sprinkle the Parmesan cheese over your pita. And I like to have egg salad with like toasted bread. So this is kind of a healthier swap out. And you can make these ahead of time. So you could, let's say you're eating lunch on the go, or you have a lunch box that you bring to work. You can just pack these in a little Ziploc bag and just pull them out and have your egg salad with the baked pita chips. Then we're gonna top it with just a little pinch of salt and pepper, just as much as you'd like. And we're gonna bake these in the oven, 425 degrees, for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how thick your bread is. Just watch it really closely because they do burn really easy, just till they get golden and crispy. All right, so now we're making the egg salad to go with those pita chips. Whenever I'm meal prepping for any kind of lunch, I like to make big batches of things because usually it's just me and Ollie at home, so he kind of eats what I eat for lunch. And then for Maddie, she goes to school all day, so I pack her and Sean, who heads out the door for work, just some lunches to take with them. So I'm really just thinking about what is really quick that I can pull right out of the fridge and feed me and Ollie. And I like to think, what is something that has a good amount of protein, a good amount of fiber to keep us satisfied throughout the day. So this egg salad's perfect. I also really like chicken salad for lunch. You can make big batches of that. In the colder months, I like soups and chilies, something warm that you can just batch right in your crock pot. And this is really good for summer and springtime. You could even eat it over a bed of lettuce if you'd like something like that. So then we're gonna add to the hard-boiled eggs just 2 tablespoons of hummus. And a little trick about hummus. The very first time that my mom had this egg salad, she was like, what is it about this egg salad that makes it so creamy? It's the hummus. And hummus really is a great swap out for mayonnaise or other kind of creamy bases for dressings. And then really mustard, salt, and pepper to taste, because everybody has a different preference when it comes to their egg salad. Some people really like a lot of salt, a lot of mustard. So you just kind of do what you like with those. I do about a teaspoon of mustard, and that looks good to me. So this is gonna be absolutely delicious and really filling with our pita chips. So this is something that you could easily just kind of put into a Tupperware container, and you can pull it out throughout the week and just add a little bit to your plate. But if I was gonna make this for meal prep, I would definitely double or even triple the recipe so I could have it throughout the week. And this egg salad or chicken salad or anything really just like it is gonna stay good in the fridge for about 5 days. So that's always my rule whenever it comes to making something ahead of time, is 5 days is pretty safe. So I'm gonna enjoy this egg salad, maybe with some pita chips later. Also makes a great snack. Coming up next, get ready to prep for a busy night in less than 10 minutes. Let's make one of my family's favorites, meatball lasagna. now for dinner, we're gonna make one of my favorite things to meal prep, which is a meatball lasagna. But really, I love any style of lasagna or casserole or bake to do for meal prep for dinner, because you literally make it once at the beginning of the week and you can eat it almost all week, depending on how big your family is. But I also like to double casseroles and lasagnas and things of that nature and put them in my freezer so you can eat twice throughout the week. So for this meatball lasagna, I'm gonna start with a 20-ounce bag of meatballs, a pack of no-boil lasagna noodles, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 2 cups of shredded cheese, a 1/4 cup of Parmesan, 16 ounces of cottage cheese, 1 egg, and 2 jars of marinara sauce. So to start the creamy cheesy layer for this lasagna bake, we're gonna start with some cottage cheese. And I love to use cottage cheese instead of ricotta in all my lasagna and all of my bakes that require a cheese sauce. The reason why is because it is just as creamy. You cannot taste the large curds. People always ask me, can you taste the cottage cheese in that? No, you absolutely cannot. But it's a great swap out for ricotta because it's much higher in protein and it's lower in calories and fat. So it's a little bit better for you. Then we're just gonna add our Parmesan, our Italian seasoning, and just 1 cup of shredded cheese. We're gonna save the rest for the top. And then 1 egg. And we're gonna mix this all together. So you can see it's just like a traditional cream sauce for a lasagna, but what I love the most about this lasagna is that you don't have to get out your saute pan. You don't have to make a meat sauce because we're using meatballs. So for the meatballs, all you have to do is you buy a frozen bag of meatballs. I like to buy organic meatballs, so if you can find those, and you literally just thaw them out in your microwave, however you like to thaw out your frozen meatballs. And that way, you just literally add them to the lasagna. So easy. So if I'm having a really busy weekend, that's usually when I do my meal prep. People ask me, how do you make the time on really busy weekends to meal prep? And the biggest thing is I do not do all my meal prep all at once and just take an entire day on my weekend, an entire Saturday or Sunday, and just simply meal prep. Instead, what I do is I do it kind of in steps and stages. So I'll think ahead about what I want to make for the week on, let's say, a Friday. Then I order my groceries, which has been a huge time saver. There's tons of different ways you can order groceries, and most of them are really inexpensive these days. So I order some groceries to my house on Saturday. Then on Sunday before church, I do just about an hour worth of meal prep. And that 1 hour of meal prep consists of making something like my oatmeal bake that we made today so that I can have some breakfast for the week, and then maybe putting a few things together for Sean and Maddie to take for lunch, and then throwing something in my crock pot for lunch for the week for me and Ollie, and then maybe doing a few simple steps to get some dinner stuff ready. So making a lasagna is a really great thing that you can make for meal prep for dinners. But I also, if I don't do something like a lasagna, let's say I plan to grill some chicken. Maybe I'll think ahead and make some pasta salad, or maybe I'll wash some produce and I'll cut some produce up. Just a few simple things that I do when I'm thinking ahead on that Sunday meal prep. And again, it's really just like 1 hour that I really meal prep. It really saves me time throughout my week. So what you can see I did here for this lasagna bake is I just layered some of my marinara sauce at the bottom of the baking dish. This is a 9x13. And then I put about 6 lasagna noodles down. And these are no-boil lasagna noodles, so you don't need to boil them ahead. Another really great time-saving tip for your meal prep days. No-boil lasagna noodles. So we added those, and then we added our cheese sauce and our meatballs. You could cut the meatballs in half so that they're laying a little bit flatter, but once it all bakes together, you really can't tell that there's kind of the gaps there. It all just kind of blends together really nicely. And then we're gonna top this off with the rest of our cheese sauce. Okay, so we're gonna spread the rest of this cheese sauce on top of these noodles here. We'll top it off with the rest of our meatballs. And then we will add the rest of our marinara sauce and the rest of our cheese. So it'll be delicious. Now, one thing that if you don't like kind of a leftover tasting lasagna, like you really like it just freshly baked, and that's really a preference of yours, you can always make this ahead and then you can actually bake it right before dinner. So that's a lot of times what I tell people if they don't like leftovers is I just say, okay, well then just make it and don't bake it until you're ready to eat. So that's a really great way of keeping things really fresh tasting when you're meal prepping. Another thing that I like to do is if I'm meal prepping, let's say a really big batch of chicken, and I'm gonna use it on salads or different ways that I'll use it throughout the week. I will take that chicken and I will kind of dress it up so it doesn't taste dry and bland because I made it earlier in the week. So maybe I'll toss it in a little bit of vinaigrette before I put it in my salad, and just heating it up and just serving it dry is kind of bland and boring. So I always like to add a little something to my chicken throughout the week. Maybe if you're, let's say, having quesadillas with some chicken in it, you could toss it in some buffalo sauce. And that way it kind of tastes a little bit more fresh. Okay, so now I'm gonna top this off with our last bit of cheese here, the best part. And I really love topping it with the meatballs. That way you can see that it's a meatball lasagna, which is really not only an easier variation, but I think it's kind of a fun variation on traditional lasagna as well. And then we're gonna top it with Parmesan because everything's better with Parmesan cheese. And my whole family loves Parmesan cheese. In fact, my kids ask for the whole entire bowl to be at the table with them. So whenever we're eating something with pasta, they always say, can we have the cheese? And so I just bring the whole bowl over to the table. So we're gonna cover this with foil. We're gonna bake it 350 degrees for 45 minutes. Then we're gonna take the foil off, and in the last 15 minutes of baking, we're just gonna bake it just as is, and that will allow the cheese to get really bubbly on top and delicious. Coming up next, meal prepping is great for those busy nights, but we can't forget about the snacks. Nothing satisfies like protein peanut butter bars. All right, so now we're gonna meal prep one of my favorite parts of the day, which is snack time. This really could be a dessert or snack because we're using some candy. And if you love peanut butter, these peanut butter protein bars are gonna be your new favorite snack or treat. In fact, I have them in my freezer right now. I'm pretty sure I have them in the freezer all the time since I created this recipe. That's how much I love it. So for this recipe, you'll need 1 cup of oat flour, a 1/2 cup of protein powder or peanut flour, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 cup of sweetener, a 1/3 cup of applesauce, and 2/3 cup of peanut butter. So we're gonna start with some oat flour. This you can make right at home if you don't have oat flour or you've never even heard of it. You've heard of old-fashioned oats. You just blend them up in a blender until you get a flour. So that's what we have here. Then we have a 1/2 cup of protein powder or peanut flour. So peanut flour, there's a lot of different brands now, but essentially it's just peanut flavored powder that has high protein. And so it tastes just like peanut butter, and it's a little bit lower in calories and fat, and it's high in protein. So it's all around good for you, and it tastes delicious in these bars. But if you don't have that, you can use any kind of protein powder. And our sweetener, our applesauce, salt, and some peanut butter. That's how easy these bars come together. And one little tip when it comes to meal prepping snacks throughout the week, I don't make these on a weekend. So really, I just look for a little window in my week, and it's really not every week. It's maybe every other or every 3 weeks even. to make some snacks. If, let's say on a Friday afternoon, I have a little bit of extra downtime and I don't have a lot of work going on, I'll just think, okay, I'm gonna use this time to meal prep some snacks. That way it doesn't cut into the time that I have to meal prep on my weekends, because usually that time is spent for making breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I'll just make a bunch of snacks and I'll just bake. I'll just get all my baking stuff and just have a really good time. I'll put on some worship music and I'll just get jamming and make like 3 or 4 batches of different kinds of protein snacks. And that really helps me in staying healthy, because if I have something sweet that's high in protein to snack on throughout the week, it always is going to turn out better than if I don't have something on hand. So what I tend to do is I put them in my freezer, any kind of bars or muffins or baked good that I make, I put them in my freezer, I pull them out, maybe I'll microwave them for like 30 seconds, and oftentimes that just melts the chocolate chips or the candy that's on it, and it really does taste like a decadent treat. Now, if I don't have those things on hand, what would I look for? I'd probably reach for my kids' candy stash or something else to kind of curb that sweet tooth and to have a snack throughout my day. So that's why I like to have something healthier on hand. And I find too that with bars and different kinds of snacks, it's great to have those for your kids as well, because the kids' snacks these days, the prepackaged ones, are so expensive. They're like at least $1 a bar. So if you're a mom out there, I know you hear me right now. So it's really good to have bars that you make yourself, much cheaper, much better ingredients on hand, so that when your kids are looking for a snack, you have something to offer them as well. My kids love these, they just eat them right up. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to this because it is looking a little dry. Okay, there we go. So I just get in here with my hands. I usually start stirring things with a spatula, and then I get in there with my hands and kind of bring it all together, just because that is the easiest kitchen tool that you got, is your hands. Okay, so this is coming together, and what you want it to look like is like a cookie dough. So then we are gonna pour that out onto the parchment paper. And if you don't have parchment paper, you can always pour it out onto a clean kitchen counter. I would just spray it with a little bit of cooking spray just so it doesn't stick to your counter. But what I like to do to kind of just make it a little bit cleaner and easier to clean up is take 2 pieces of parchment paper. One to put the actual dough down, and then one to put on top, and that way you can roll it out and you don't even need to clean your rolling pin after. So I'm just gonna kind of roll these out. We're gonna kind of make them into bars here. And a lot of times people ask me when it comes to meal prep, where do I start? If I'm totally overwhelmed, if everything you're saying to me, thinking ahead, is just not my thing, where would I begin? The first thing I would tell someone is start by just making dinners. You don't need to meal prep breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks all at once. Just think about maybe 2 or 3 dinners that you can think ahead. What would I make for dinner this week? Start there, and then start to incorporate more and more meals as that becomes a second nature. And I promise you, it really does get easier the more that you do it. It almost becomes something that you really don't even need to write down or plan out. You just kind of think about it and you think, okay, this sounds like a good plan, and you just do it. So it really does become a habit over time. Okay, so now we poured our peanut butter candy, but you could also use chocolate chips on this, or peanut butter chips would also be delicious. But these are Reese's Pieces peanut butter bars, so we had to do the tried and true. You just want to kind of spread them out evenly. All right, so we're going to just clean up the edges a little bit like this, and then we're going to cut them into bars. Okay, and so these are perfect just as is. You can eat them right away, or you can store them in your fridge or freezer. Well, if you're anything like me, meal prep has to be super easy and family friendly. So all of the meals that I made today were just that, really easy to prep ahead and something that, as you can see, my kids absolutely love. So if you like these recipes and more just like it, head over to Dashing Dish where you will find recipes and more to nourish your body and soul. You guys just eating the candy off of them. Here, try some, try the bar. The hills are alive with the sun.
Maddie, can you let me take a picture of this?
Oh, he's trying to get down to get the candy. They've eaten now. Okay, smile. Smile. Look at his orange everywhere.